Hello, I'm Zena, and I'm going to be reading Tiger Eyes by Judy Blume. I read this book when I was like 14 or 15 years old. I'm going to reread it and see how I feel about it now. When I first read it, it helped me through a lot. This is the copy that I've had for feel like 10 years. The summary says, Davy has never felt so alone in her life. Her father is dead, shot in a holdup, and the rest of the family has moved to New Mexico to try to recover. Climbing in the Los Alamos Canyon, Davy meets mysterious Wolf, who can read Davy's sad eyes. Wolf is the only person who seems to understand the rage and fear Davy feels. Slowly, with Wolf's help, Davy realizes that she must get on with her life. But when will she be ready to leave the past behind and move toward the future? Will she ever stop hurting? I don't remember who gave this to me. They got it from Goodwill. You can see. And this was, I'm 28 now, so this was a while ago. And this wasn't a new copy either. This copy was reprinted October 1991. So this, I didn't get this new. And it was printed about 6 years before I was born. Alright. So, let's start. Chapter 1. In the morning of the funeral, I'm tearing my room apart, trying to find the right kind of shoes to wear. But all I come up with are my Adidas. I don't like Adidas. Which have holes in my toes. Which have holes in the toes. And a pair of flip-flops. I can't find my clogs anywhere. I think I packed them away with my winter clothes in a box in the attic. My mother is growing more impatient by the second and tells me to borrow a pair of her shoes. I look in her closet and choose a pair with 3-inch heels and ankle straps. When my father died, I didn't go to the funeral. I didn't want to go. Sometimes I regret it, but other times I don't. And I had everything to wear. If I couldn't have found my shoes that day and I wanted to go, I probably wouldn't be here today. I almost tripped going down the stairs. I almost tripped going down the outside stairs. My little brother Jason says, "Watch it, stupid." But he says very quietly, almost in a whisper. My mom puts her arm around my shoulder. "Be careful, Davy." At the cemetery, people are fanning themselves. We're in the midst of the longest heat wave Atlantic City has seen in 25 years. Mind you, I think this book was published in the 80s. Let's see. 1881. It was 96 degrees at 10. 96 degrees. Last summer, that would have felt like a breeze. I think about how good it would feel to walk along the beach in the wet sand with the ocean lapping at my feet. 2 days ago, I stayed in the water so long, my fingers and toes had wrinkled, and Hugh had called me pruny. Hugh, I see him as we walk through the cemetery to the gravesite. He is standing off to one side by himself, cracking his knuckles. I just cracked my knuckle. the way he does when he's thinking hard. His hair is so sun bleached it looks almost white. Maybe I noticed maybe I noticed because it is parted on the side and carefully brushed instead of hanging in his face the way it usually does. Our eyes meet, but we don't speak. I bite my lower lip so hard I taste blood. Damn. At the grave, I stand on one side of my mother, and Jason stands on the other. I feel the sweat trickling down inside my blouse, making a little pool in my bra. My aunt and uncle, who flew in from New Mexico last night, stand behind me. I have seen them only one other time in my life, when my grandmother died. But I was only 5 then, and I wasn't allowed to go to her funeral. I remember how I cried that morning, not because my grandmother had died, but because I wanted to ride in the shiny black car with the rest of the family, instead of staying at home with the neighbor who tried to feed me an apricot jelly sandwich. Ugh, with what? By itself? That is diabolical. But at 5, you're not thinking about shit, really. You're thinking about too much and only thinking about the stuff you like. This time I haven't cried at all. I haven't really cried since. Now I hear my aunt making small gasping sounds, then blowing her nose. I hear my uncle whispering to her, but I can't make out his words. I feel their breath on the back of my neck and move closer to my mother. Jason clings to Mom's hand and keeps glancing at her, then at me. My mother looks straight ahead. She doesn't even wipe away the tears that are rolling down her cheeks. If she looks at one of y'all, she will break down. I never felt so alone in my life. I shift from one foot to the other because my mother's shoes are too tight and my feet hurt. I concentrate on the pain and the blisters that are forming on my little toes, because that way I don't have to think about the coffin that is being lowered in the ground, or that my father's body is inside of it. Okay. I didn't think I was gonna start crying. I definitely didn't think I was gonna start crying. Chapter 2. The heat wave breaks that night. The next day, when my best friend Linnea comes to visit, it is still raining. She sits on the edge of my bed and piles up the newspaper that are scattered all around. "Hi," she says. "How are you?" Her voice sounds shrill, not at all like her usual voice. "I'm okay," I answer, not able to look directly at her. I didn't really have any friends when I was reading this the first time, if I didn't have my sisters and my mom. Ugh. Jesus. "I'm sorry about your father." I nod, afraid that if I try to speak, I will break down and cry. "It was a real shock." I nod again. I would cuss her out, but for what reason? I don't know. "We were in Baltimore, so we didn't know until my uncle read it in the paper. He called to tell us, but by then there was no way we could make it back in time for the funeral." She couldn't even visit. Sometimes life just be lifing. I felt myself drifting off, hearing only a few more words. I feel very far away, as if nothing is happening is real. On the day that we met, Linnea gave me a picture of a dissected female frog. She drawn it herself with colored pencils. Every organ was carefully labeled: heart, stomach, lungs, ovaries. I still have the picture somewhere in my bottom drawer, I think. That was in 8th grade. It's given autistic. Not that there's anything wrong with autistic. She sound like she got a bit of autism. Linnea is 6'1", skinny and black. Everyone assumes she must be great at basketball, but the truth is, she hates the game. She'd rather do an experiment with her chemistry set or read a book on genetics. I wouldn't mind doing a chemistry experiment, but I can't read no book on no damn genetics. My father played basketball when he was in high school. He made the all-state team twice. He could have had a college scholarship, but he and my mother got married instead. And 6.5 months later, I was born. I don't think she was no preemie. He was the all-state champ. Mama wanted some of that, and Daddy wanted some of her. Davy, are you awake? Linnea asked, bringing me back to my thoughts. Yes. Why don't you get out of bed and get dressed? It's after 12. I don't feel like getting up. I'm tired. Besides, I've got blisters on my feet. Your aunt says you haven't been out of bed since the funeral. That's not true. I get up to go to the bathroom. I shift my position, and as I do, my cat, Mika, who has been asleep next to my leg, stretches, yawns, and begins to lick herself. I stroke her under the chin until she settles down again. Did you read the story in the paper? I asked Linnea. Yes, she says. Which one? I don't remember. I rummaged through the pile of papers Linnea had stacked a few minutes earlier. Choose one, hold it up, and read the headline aloud. Adam Wexler, 34, shot and killed. I show the article to Linnea. It made the front page, I say, tapping the paper with the back of my hand. It's a nice picture, It's a nice picture of him, don't you think? I don't wait for her to answer. I took it myself in June, in front of the store. He's shading his eyes from the sun, but other than that, he looks good, doesn't he? Okay. I put down the paper and pick up another. Adam Wexler, local man, murdered. I glance at Linnea. Her head is bent and she is fiddling with her belt. I read from the paper. Adam Wexler was shot in the chest and killed Tuesday evening during a robbery in his 7-Eleven store on Virginia Avenue at Atlantic City. Sorry, y'all. In his 7-Eleven store on Virginia Avenue, Atlantic City. The unknown assailants escaped with $50 in cash. Her daddy died for $50. $50 fucking dollars. I don't know how to blur that out, so just pretend you didn't hear it. Mr. Wexler, a 1964 graduate of Atlantic City High School, is survived by his wife, Gwendolyn, a daughter, Davis, 15, and a son, Jason, 7. Whew. Jesus. I remember when I first read this, she seemed so grown up. 15 is just a baby. It's just a baby. I fold up the paper and toss it to the end of my bed. Do you think it's a good idea to keep reading about it? Elena asked. What else is he going to do? Why not? Everyone says you have to face the facts, so I'm facing them. Newspapers are very big on facts, I think. Not even back then they wasn't, I think. But not on feelings. Nobody writes about how it feels when your father is murdered. My father was not murdered, so I wouldn't know. My father was not murdered. He died of something else. Something that I don't want to say. In lieu of flowers, the family has asked that the contributions be sent to the American Heart Fund. I recite this for Linnea. While I stare at the ceiling, I wonder why my mother has selected the Heart Fund, unless it is because my father was shot in the chest 4 times. 4 times by an unknown assailant or assailants, mind you, for $50. Back in 1981, I don't know how much money that is. So I wouldn't know what the equivalent today would be in the exchange rate. You know what? Why don't I check? Why don't I check? I don't know why they keep putting it on that search engine. All right. $50 in 1981 worth today. Someone already searched it. Okay. $50. They got 500 instead. Wi-Fi is acting up. Okay, hold on. Okay, let's just look for. Okay. $50 in 1981 to the year 2025. That would be worth $50 would be worth $173.60 today. Her daddy died for $173.60. He was shot in the chest 4 times for $173.60. $173.60. Damn. Back to the book. My aunt pokes her head in my room and says, "Lunchtime, girls." I'm not hungry, I tell her. "It's just soup and sandwiches," she says. "Linnea, would you like to stay for lunch?" Sure, Linnea says. Thanks. I don't want anything. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do anything either. And it kind of stuck. You've got to eat, Davy. At a time like this, it's important to keep up your strength. I'll fix you a tray. You and Linnea can eat in your room. How about that? I nod. It is easier than arguing. When she is gone, I turn to Linnea and says, her real name is Elizabeth, but everyone calls her Bitsy. Isn't that a dumb name for a 47-year-old woman? She's my father's sister. I mean, was. That's the way you put it when somebody dies, isn't it? You say was. I say is. I'll probably will continue to say is. Maybe it's not like grammatically correct, but who cares, right? I guess Linnea says. She's from New Mexico. I know, she seems nice. My Uncle Walter is a physicist at the lab in Alamos. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So, that's where the first atom bomb was built. I know, Linnea says again. I was talking to him before, while you were asleep. I can't wait to take physics, but I think you have to be an engineer. Bitsy carries the lunch tray to my room. Lipton country vegetable soup, tuna fish sandwiches, and iced tea with lemon slices floating on top. That's a diabolical combination. I watch as Linnea begins to eat. I take a sip of iced tea. Then I try a bite of the tuna fish sandwich. I chew and chew until I feel like myself gagging. I jump off the bed and race down the hall to the bathroom where I spit the food into the toilet. But this time, I don't throw up. I wasn't throwing up. Chapter 3. On the night that my father was killed, after the police and the neighbors had left, Jason and I got into my bed with my mom. We left the light on in every room. The house was very quiet, and I thought about how strange it is that sometimes quiet can be comforting, while other times it becomes frightening. Excuse me, I have allergies. What is it like to be dead? Jason asked Mom. Peaceful, Mom told him. How do you know? Jason said. I don't really, Mom said, but it's what I believe. Suppose they come back, Jason asked. Who? Mom said. The guys who shot Daddy. Suppose they come back and shoot us too. They won't, Mom said. How do you know? I just do. That's all, Mom said. Do you think it hurt? Jason said. What? When Daddy got shot? Excuse me. Do you think it hurt him? No, Mom said. I think it happened so fast he didn't feel a thing. That's good, Jason said. Isn't that good? Yes, Mom said. That's good. Now let's try to get some sleep, okay? Okay, Jason said, yawning as he snuggled up against my mom and closed his eyes. Mom looked at me. I didn't say a word. I couldn't. I reached for her hand and held it tightly. I rested my hand on her shoulder. Hey, this shit got me crying for real. I don't like that. I might just scrap this whole video. Y'all. Nobody will never know I recorded it. This tea is good. Mostly because I put a lot of honey in it. It's called sniffle tea. I got it from some herbal shop. Very good herbal shop. I mean, we haven't died from taking anything yet. One more chapter. The chapters in this book is actually very short. There's 40 chapters in all. The last chapter is just one page, 3 paragraphs. I'll read one more chapter and then it's gonna be like, what, 30 minutes? So post that and then hopefully the next 4 chapters will be up maybe the day after tomorrow. Walter and Bitsy stay with us for 10 days. And Bitsy offers to stay longer to help my mother. But Mom says, no, you've done enough already. There's no such thing as enough, Bitsy says. We're family. Maybe we haven't seen much of each other over the years. Her voice trails off. We kept planning a trip to New Mexico, Mom says, but somehow, Jesus, life just gets in the way until there's no more life. That's fucked up. Sorry. Fictional characters. Neither of them seems to be able to finish a sentence. Come with us now, Bitsy says. The change will do you good. I can't, Mom says. I've got to pick up the pieces by myself. All right. But we don't want you to worry about money, Gwen. We can help. We want to help until you get back on your feet. My mother presses her lips together and shakes her head. I think we can manage. Bitsy gets up from the table and walks to the kitchen where she pours herself a 3rd cup of coffee. I'm standing by the stove, stirring honey into a cup of tea that I am not going to drink. I remember when he was born, Bitsy says. He was such an adorable baby. At first I think she's talking about Jason, but then she says, always drawing, right from the beginning. And such a good student. Such a fine athlete. I realize that she means my father. I still can't believe it. Bitsy continues, her voice breaking. I think why this book resonated with me so much, other than that her dad just died, mine didn't just die, but it had been a while. But I wasn't crying. I wasn't crying at all. I felt stuck. And when I read this book, just tears. And I didn't think, I thought that I wouldn't cry reading this again. I forgot. I like to bury things deep. I don't want her to cry. Not now. She takes a few deep breaths, blows her nose, and the moments passes. She carries her coffee cup back to the dining area and sits down again. No will, no insurance, no savings. She says to Mom, what were you living on anyway? Love? More or less, my mother answers. They got pregnant before high school ended. Got married right out. I should get insurance. I definitely should get insurance. I don't got no savings, so I might get a couple insurance policies from different companies. I think you can do that. I'm like 98% sure you can do that. Bitsy sighs. Adam always was a dreamer. Yes, my mom says. That's one of the reasons I loved him. We're all dreamers, I think. If you don't have dreams, what do you have? Later, as Bitsy and Walter kiss each of us goodbye, Bitsy says, "We have a big house, and you'll always be welcome. We're only as far as the, we're only as far away as the phone," Walter adds. "Thank you," Mom says. "I'm glad you were here. You were a real help." I have mixed feelings when Walter and Bitsy leave. It's good to be by ourselves again. Just us. Just the family. But it's also a reminder that my father isn't here anymore. That he won't be back. That from now on, it will only be the three of us. Jesus. I'm just thinking about like her her dad and her mom were still together when he died. My mom and my dad were separated, and I don't know, maybe it's all the same at the end of the day because I felt so connected to this book. Maybe it's not that I'm crazy. At night, I lie in my bed, frightened. I hear noises I've never heard before. With Bitsy and Walter sleeping on the sofa in the living room, I wasn't so scared. None of us was. Now it's back to a light on in every room and Jason creeping into Mom's bed in the middle of the night. I feel like going into Mom's room too. With the three of us close together, I don't feel so alone. But I'm 15. I keep reminding myself, I can't sleep in my mother's bed forever. Sometimes it's so comfortable you won't wake up. Like not like, but like, what is there to get for? There's a whole lot of stuff to get up for. School, work. The worst times are when I started thinking about the brown paper bag in my closet shelf. Then my heart beats very fast and I have trouble breathing. So I squeeze my eyes shut to erase the picture in my mind. We live above the store and I listen for footsteps on the outside stairs. I'll have plenty of warning if someone tries to get up here, I tell myself, touching the bread knife that I've hidden under my pillow. Trauma! And I'm not the only one who's prepared. My mother keeps the gun under her bed. She doesn't know that I know, but I do. I've seen her holding it. It's loaded. She's ready to use it if she has to. Not like Dad. He kept the gun in the store on a shelf right under the cash register. But it wasn't loaded. He was afraid Jason would get a hold of it or something. So the bullets were in a locked drawer and only my father had the key. We'd have been robbed two other times, but the second time my father waved the gun at the guy and he took off with just a six-pack. My father's dream was to sell the store and open a small gallery with sculpture and paintings. My father could have been another Van Gogh, or at least a portrait artist. He was really good with faces, especially eyes. He kept his easel in the store right by the register. And when business was slow, he sketched. There are charcoal drawings, most of them of our customers, hanging on a wire around the perimeter of the store and upstairs in my parents' bedroom. The walls are covered with portraits of us, Mom, Jason, and me, a family history. Hugh had always been working in the store all summer. That's how we met. We didn't start going out right away though. At first it was just me saying, "You want help stacking the bread?" And Hugh answering, "Sure, why not?" He didn't say much. All I knew about him was that he was going to be a senior and that he liked his pizza with pepperoni. And I knew how I felt when I stood close to him, or when he looked at me, or when his hand brushed against my arm. So, he's going to be a senior. Mr. Wexler, a 1964 graduate of Atlantic City High School, is survived by his wife, Gwendolyn, a daughter, Davis, 15, and a son, Jason, 15. So he's like 17, 18. I don't know about 18 and 15. 17 and 15, I guess. But, I guess, I mean, this was back in 81. It's a little different then. I don't think Coca-Cola was the only thing with special ingredients back then. So, but there's some people dating that age now. I won't be reading the next chapter for a while now. Maybe tomorrow when I get off of. When I'm done doing what I'm doing. And I don't got a bookmark. Oh, I do, actually. Look how cute this is. Love. And look it. Isn't that cute? I think it's adorable. Okay, so it's looking like it can only do at least 2 pages. Kind of sucks, but okay, because it's kind of heavy to be just only magnetizing on 2 pages. Mind you, 1, 2, 3, 4. Chapter 5 is only 4 pages. Well, thank you for reading with me.